Welcome to the Lida podcast, your space to grow your influence and elevate your personal brand. In each episode, you'll hear inspiring stories, expert insights, and practical strategies to help you stand out, lift up others, and leave your mark on your team, your community, or the world. If you're ready to make your voice heard, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome, friends. I am so thrilled you are here today. This is our kicking off 2026 episode. I don't know how 2025 for you was, but for some people, it was really hard. For others of you, it was a banner year, and you are going into this year with so much energy and enthusiasm. And whichever place you find yourself in, this conversation is really going to rock your world. I am so glad to have you here. If this is your first time with the Lida podcast, then welcome. I hope you enjoy and subscribe and share with your friends and really benefit from the conversation. If you've been with us before, welcome back. I'm really happy you're here. As I mentioned, 2025 can, for some people, be looked at as kind of a challenging year. A lot was happening in the world, a lot was happening in our communities, and even in our companies. People were getting promoted and companies were getting acquired. Some people got laid off. People were still mentoring and leading amidst all of this change. And as we go into a new year, we thought it would be really important to focus on that sort of tension that happens when things are really good or things are a little bit stressful. And we tend to look inward and what that does to our ability to lead, because what a leader brings to the table, which is so unique to leadership as opposed to management, what a leader brings to the table is the ability to empower people. When we empower others, we are giving, we are generous, we are supporting, encouraging. We are watching and investing in the people around us to see them grow, often to surpass us. And that's the point of leadership. But there's this tension that happens when, we're really stressed, either because things are so great we want to hold on to them, or things are a little wonky or unstable and we're not quite sure what that means. We tend to look inward. And so we're going to talk about the ability to empower others as a true character trait of leadership. And I think you're absolutely going to love this conversation, regardless of where you are, because my guest knows a lot about empowerment. I want to introduce a friend, a colleague, and our guest for today, Jessica Lovett. I'm going to read her background, which, trust me, this is abbreviated because this woman is off the charts amazing. All the way from Canada, Jessica is a dynamic commercial strategist with expertise growing and developing both brands and people. With over 2 decades of pharmaceutical commercialization experience, Jessica leads commercial and innovation vision, prioritization, growth, and diversification for Innomar Strategies, a part of Cencora in Canada. As a past executive lead and current volunteer of Women Leaders in Pharma, she is deeply passionate and committed to mentoring, sponsoring, and developing future leaders for tomorrow. Please welcome Jessica. Hello, my friend.
Hello, this is a pleasure. Good to see you, Lida.
Well, it's great to see you. I can kind of get a glimpse of your background. I know you're in Canada. I get cold just looking at that background.
That is my mission, is just to bring everybody into what I'm feeling today. But good to see you.
I expected to see you in a big, heavy coat. I love this conversation because I have been, I think, twice a guest on the WLA, Women Leaders, or WLP, excuse me, Women Leaders in Pharma podcast.
Yes.
And you really offer such amazing counsel and guidance to women going through this industry, that you're in, which is traditionally male dominated, very high pressure, very highly scrutinized. And that is also ripe for this place that we often go, which is, I got to protect myself. I got to take care of me because no one else is looking out for me. But what we're going to talk about is empowering others. So with that, what are you seeing in terms of trends, or maybe has the importance of empowerment grown because of what the world is going through, or what are you seeing?
It's an interesting space to be in right now, right? I think that empowerment is something where, first and foremost, everybody's going to define it a little differently, right? It is going to be, what does it look like to you? And I think as part of the journey, it's also at what stage you are willing to kind of embrace empowerment. It can look different for many, and I think many are starting to think about, does that help? Does that put me into a better position of leadership to be able to empower others? I think the dynamics of what took place during the pandemic and everybody kind of coming into more of a virtual space versus connecting live. I think that there is a generational consideration of where a lot of individuals I will, take it into the pharmaceutical and healthcare industry that I am in right now, that are at a space that may be looking upon retirement, versus those that are just starting to come in. And then there is also that consideration of how technology and market is kind of shifting the dynamics of how empowerment now may play a role as well, because you need to figure out how to navigate that effectively, not only for yourself and all of those dynamics that play into it, but for others as well. Whether it is going to be something that helps or hinders is something that you need to internalize first before it shows up externally.
And you've given me 3 places I want to dive into just in that short soundbite. But maybe it would be helpful if you could kind of define, what do we mean by empowerment? What are we doing when we're empowering others?
I see it from an empowerment standpoint. I see it as an opportunity to, one, give forward. We've all been kind of in that pay it forward perspective. Empowerment really is an opportunity, and you opened up with this a little bit. It's how you can share and how you can give to others. But the second piece of it is how you can give to yourself. Empowerment really plays an interesting role in the ability to be able to, for instance, think about delegation. How empowerment actually can play a role in lessening the stress, lessening the consideration of how much you need to hold on to things. Empowering others to do that actually shows up as a true leadership trait.
And we call that delegation typically, right? And that's how we sort of rationalize it. I'm delegating.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is there's almost a twist to it, because you can delegate somebody a task, but you're empowering them if there's a growth opportunity, a coaching opportunity, and their skills and their character is becoming better rather than just the task.
Exactly. And I think too, something that I've learned over my path as a leader has been that consideration of how this can show up. As you extend yourself into different roles and even into an executive level position, I think there is an opportunity to say that you need to be even more curious and you need to even question more. But sometimes that ability to empower is to say, you don't need to take the same path as I would take to get to whatever that mission is, or to whatever that North Star is that we are all trying to get to. So there's a project that everyone is working on. There is a goal or an objective that the organization has set. That individual may take a different path to get there.
Right.
And empowerment is to say that as long as we're all kind of looking at that North Star, how you get there, I am empowering you to be able to take your own path on that. And that's hard sometimes as a leader to say, oh, wait a second, no, that's not how I would do it. Giving people the ability to learn, the ability to dynamically grow and extend themselves, as long as they can still keep within that, where are we going with this, then you can learn as a leader as well. That's the interesting nuance to this as well, is empowerment also should be kind of a two-way street, where I can say that I am a better leader if I continue to be curious. And my questioning of, tell me a little bit more about what your thoughts were as to why you went in a different direction than I would have. That's vulnerability, right? I never saw it from that perspective. That's great. that you were able to do that. And it gives those building blocks for individuals then to see a path forward as well.
I often, and I kind of touched on this at the beginning, there's such, in my way of seeing the world, there's a difference between a manager and a leader. Mm-hmm. And we need both, right? It's not a right or wrong. Yes. It's just managers have a different kind of accountability. They're more task and project and people based, right? Making sure everything is on time and on budget. And a manager can be a leader, but that's a commitment. To lead is a commitment to wanting to grow people, to ask those hard questions and then listen without judgment. And I think about, how hard it was for me to learn those skills, because I think I'm awesome at leading, but managing, I am really not good at. So when I realized that I didn't have to be a manager, it is about empowering. And the way I always equate empowerment is investing, right? If I show someone how to do it and I walk them through and I ask them, I give them certain times where they can go off, and just go play with something and come back. That's building their skills. But to your point, I'm then learning.
Yes.
And I'm investing, and that takes a lot of time.
And there's a different skill set that is built as well, right? When I think too, a lot of times that individuals need to see that leader is leading with consideration too, that they have something to learn from it, but also that they are walking the walk, right? Yeah. I think that there's my experience has been, the more practical I have been in consideration of, I have actually experienced this, but you need to experience it too. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing what your learning is from it. But understanding that I've done that, to be able to empower individuals is also to say that, there's a trust in the ability to progress something forward, right? That I think is so crucial today too, because of that disconnect, what I talked about, where you may not be seeing that individual live in person all the time. There's that human connection component that I think empowerment as a leader, and empowerment for individuals has to show up in the way in which you are delivering the message, that you are showing through example as well, because you do not have as much of that real-time connectivity too. And I think your point around, a lot of people are really amazing managers. They manage projects. A lot of people manage projects so much better than I do. And some people will manage people as well. But there is that nuance of how you show up to empower as a leader, to be able to say, I'm vulnerable. There is a practical sense of what I'm looking for from you. And yet I trust and I have confidence in what you are to deliver. And I'm going to learn from you as well through this experience.
Yeah. So it kind of becomes a mutual mission.
Yeah.
So the three things I wanted to go back to that you touched on at the very beginning, you talked about remote work, you talked about generational, and you talked about the influence of technology. Let's start with the generational, because we have that now. We have, baby boomer generation that are still very active in the workplace.
Yes.
How is empowerment working across multiple generations in the workplace now?
I'm seeing empowerment show up differently. And this is, again, my perspective, but I'm seeing it show up differently from a generational standpoint of what the true need is with respect to empowerment. Some of it becomes very much the language that you're using and the way in which you're communicating that ability to empower, being very clear and defined, so if you're talking baby boomers and even leaning into kind of a Gen X consideration, very task driven from an empowerment standpoint. There's a clear path that you're trying to navigate. The side in which we're starting to see show up is that emotional connection. How am I connected to this? When you're looking at the different generations now, and empowerment may be in something where I need to feel recognized in a different capacity. I have all generations within my teams today. That recognition looks very different today from a generational perspective than it does years ago when I was working with just individuals that were probably within my same wisdom level, I'll call it, versus age range. This is something that empowerment too becomes, if I can recognize that individual differently, then it empowers them to think about how they may pay it forward again, or how they may show up differently as well. That too, I think, is extremely important from a generational standpoint.
Love it. What about this whole, I mean, you've talked around it, but this whole idea of remote work, we're not face to face. So many meetings I'm in, people don't even turn on their cameras. So we're losing eye contact. We're losing the nuance of body language in our communication. And to your point, we're working with teams all over the world that we will never meet IRL. And how is that either facilitating our ability to empower or detracting from it?
It is such a good point. And I think everybody embraces it differently. I mean, I sit here in my office today. I come into the office every day. I would say 80% of the individuals, though, that I work within this organization with are remote. So it shows up, I think, differently with respect to real-time connection. People do not have those windows anymore for reflection in between, because everything becomes a virtual meeting that it gets booked in, and then you're trying to find those moments of managing your day to day. And so I know you and I have talked a little bit about it, that ability to focus. And I've always said, that's my favorite F word, is focus. Is that, how do you do that within a remote consideration as well sometimes, and then find the balance in the day to be able to say there's a kind of a differentiation in leadership that shows up when you can showcase that focus becomes something of a leadership trait as well. To say, you know what, we're going to step away for now. We're not going to have a meeting on this. Giving people the ability to breathe, to digest, to analyze a little bit, the quality of the work that may come out, and you as a leader to be able to recognize that with individuals as well. So where empowerment may play a role there too, is to empower your teams to say, it's okay if we need to find those moments of reflection, because strategic thinking, goal setting, professional and personal development, in addition to what we need to do for the organization, all has to find its space in there. And so I do think that that shift that we've had also has to keep people not only on task, but to find the space to focus as well, and to put their hand up, to be able to say, I think we're way off base here. We're starting to add too many things, and we are not finding where we're going to be able to deliver for the organization as well as for ourselves professionally as well.
Love that. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to work with an executive coach? I've had the honor of working with professionals, entrepreneurs, and executives in over 38 countries, helping them navigate the career process through the lens of personal branding and reputation management. The tools that I use allows us to co-create a strategy that puts you in the best position for control and influence over your career and your target community. If you're interested in learning more about personal branding, let's talk. Well, let's talk about the impact of technology, because we're using AI. Some people have emotional relationships with AI. AI is giving us, affirmations and other technology, right? We're all on smartphones and devices. And how has technology either helped our ability to empower people or taken away from it?
I'm going to start with the fact that I do think there is this undercurrent of concern, or is this going to eliminate a lot of who I am and what I do? Maybe even my value with respect to the changes where technology has really impacted individuals, and that might not be at a level of some of the executives that are there today, but you're underpinning the individuals that are really doing that work, thinking about, is is there something that's going to come about that is going to impede my ability to be able to deliver value, or that I am not going to be valued the same way that I was before? I think there's an opportunity from an empowerment standpoint and how leaders can empower for one, education in the manner that speaks to this is something that will actually unlock your ability to do more and do better, instead of this is going to impede. I think that there is empowerment in getting individuals to be able to think a little differently about what value they can bring to the table, because it may be eliminating administrative burden. It may be getting us faster to where we need to be. There is going to be a lot of governance. I mean, if all of us working, I myself working in large organizations, there's still a lot of factors that are going to come into play here. But technology, I think it's finding your ability to be able to speak to your team members, to speak to people about what that means for them, how they can be valued differently with respect to that balance of technology. So it's steering the conversation before it may even be happening, because I think there's that undercurrent that people are thinking.
People are excited about it and scared about it at the same time. And I teach programs about building influence in the age of AI, because everyone's afraid it's going to replace their job. And I'm a firm believer that human connection will never be replaced by a computer or robot. And I've got a whole argument around that. But, I think where we can, as leaders, sort of encourage our teams to use technology, to your point, to make them more efficient, to take those routine tasks that can be automated and rely on it. What I wonder is sometimes if we're empowering them to, as you pointed out earlier, do some critical thinking, do some problem solving, go off on your own and sort of, create something and come back and let's discuss it.
Yes.
Are they going to actually do that work, or are they going to turn to an AI assistant and get the AI tools to give them that answer? That is what I hope doesn't happen. What do you think?
I think that there's this balance between human connection and the power that innovation can play. I mean, I have innovation in my job title, in fact, so I do have to embrace it to some degree or another. But I do think that there is this consideration of how it plays as an enabler. And if we can shift thinking of individuals to really think about that, and that's not everyone, as you said, right? This is ensuring that as leaders, we are also having that conversation to say, how does that enable? But a conversation,
right?
That it should not eliminate that ability to be able to dig deeper into the why. Dig deeper into that. So what does this mean then for us? So some of that back end work can effectively be done, but then you start to say, okay, so now if we're thinking forward, if we're thinking strategically, if we are starting to kind of contemplate what does this look like for the future, for sure we can generate some information, but it is going to be that communication, that connectivity, that thoughtfulness, and how you lead will also play a role in that, of connecting people together to then take that information and digest it enough to say, okay, now how do we put a strategic overlay to that of what it means for all of us? So
love that. And I want to pivot a little bit and talk about something that I am really excited to hear you give advice on, because I'm terrible at it. And that is the idea. This is so self-serving, folks. I just bring people on here to basically give me the advice I need. Saying no. I'm so bad at saying no. Generosity is one of my core values. So somebody asks for something, I just want to give and give and give. And I can't, because I run a business and I have people that I'm accountable to. What is your thought on that place between empowering, saying no, and kind of a word that you use, which is over-indexing? Talk a little bit about that.
Okay. So two spaces that I love to talk about. I mean, the first one, I think that saying no, yes, there's something embedded within me as well that really, it just hurts, right? Because I think, but no, but I want to help. I want to
Right.
do. I want to.
I can
Right?
do that. I can do
Yes,
that.
exactly. And but it does become a bit of an impediment, right?
Yeah.
So I do think that it is our ability as leaders, or if you are in a leadership role or aspiring to be in a leadership role, it is going back to how we first started this conversation. No, and embracing the no becomes real powerful from an empowerment standpoint as well. It is a factor that really showcases your leadership, your confidence in being able to say no, yet reshaping the ability to say,
Mhm.
this could be a perfect opportunity for. There's that delegation opportunity. There is
Mm.
that, this is a tremendous learning opportunity for this individual over here who has never
Mhm.
experienced this before. And it really showcases. So to take the no and reframe it as a no is part of leadership. No is part of empowerment. It is not a consistent thing that we should be saying, or else none of us would ever get anything done, right? But I think that's an interesting one, and I think to what you called out, this concept of over indexing.
Yeah.
I think that where I will speak for women in particular,
Mhm.
when they are looking for promotional opportunities or opportunities to showcase their ability to progress,
Mhm.
will over index. And what that means is potentially the quantity of work becomes more than what is required. Over indexing
Mm.
may actually not get you that next space to move to. And, this is something that we've been speaking to in Women Leaders in Pharma, and the ability to be able to recognize that finding a balance actually is imperative to be able to also showcase how you show up as a leader.
Mhm.
Because over indexing or doing more than what is required actually impedes the ability to delegate, which is a key element of professional development and leadership. Your ability to be able to recognize where majority of my team is much smarter than I am and much more skilled in certain core areas. So why would I be? It's a bit of that consideration of I can do it myself. It would be faster. I'm protecting others.
Right.
It's unlocking that a little bit. So finding that balance
Mhm.
requires a bit of a no in how you lead, and ensuring that you recognize that is that so much more that I'm doing here because I've done it many times before.
Mhm.
I'm going to do it better, do it faster, and benefit both me and the organization and the people around me.
And I like have a visceral reaction. I can feel it in my body when you say we've got to say no, because I think you're absolutely right. And I do see that a lot with my female clients. And some of them are in very senior roles, and something gets handed to them and there's no question they'll do it. And I've asked them, what would your male counterpart say to that same request? Well, they might be more focused on the outcome, and I'm more focused on the volume. So they believe for some reason there's a tape that tells them um, the more work you have to get done, the more valuable you are. Whereas some of their counterparts, and yes, a lot of them are male, will say, I'm more laser focused. I'll take on the projects that produce the better outcome because that's the result that I want to be measured on. And I don't know where these beliefs came from. I don't know if it's DNA or cultural or what, um, but that's something we do have to change. Being more selective, also to something you mentioned real quickly earlier, is the idea of empowering ourselves, which is self-care and taking care of who we are and growing. We can't do that if we're overwhelmed. So I think I'm going to try saying no. But my team is going, but not to us, right? Um,
If my team is listening to this as well, they're saying the same thing. So it's something that takes a lot of time and
yeah,
energy, and yet at the same time, similar to when we get into that habit of saying it's faster if I do it.
yeah,
You have to build that muscle of saying no, and it gets you into a better space for the future as well. But it also is a bit of that walk the walk. We cannot continue to coach and to mentor even women or men, but
right.
women leaders or aspiring leaders forward if we cannot walk the walk ourselves as
Yeah.
well. So
Ugh, all this vulnerability stuff. Oh, it's just so hard. Well, and something we talked about a little bit earlier is the idea of paying it forward. And, I think if we're ever given the opportunity to have that space where we can just get quiet with ourselves and realize how many people helped us get where we are, right? Influenced us, challenged us, believed and advocated for us, empowered us to get where we are, then there is a little bit of a human obligation, a humanity call to do that for someone else,
Yeah.
right? Is that how you see pay it forward?
Oh, paying it forward, I think, is something that, and actually, I've started to see it a little more from a generational standpoint too, right? I think that paying it forward is an opportunity to grow as a leader, is to take in that opportunity of gratitude, the thankfulness, the feeling that you can feed off of. So the energy around others, and that's another, we're going into many different spaces here, but that energy that you can get from paying it forward in your ability to be able to say, I've learned from this, giving of your time, whether it's in a mentorship role or it's just to talk to, I was on a call a couple of weeks ago with new hires within our organization. And they had, I think there was a list of 19 different questions that they had. And we were trying to get through it in a 20-minute time frame and do the math on that. Yeah. So it was, and I'm not I'm quite verbose. So it was never going to happen. But it was that stop and pause with the onboarding team. And I said, listen, let's book another 30 minutes. We'll record it. I want to take the last 9, 10 questions that we didn't get through and address them for this group. This is important because if I can give them anything, little nuggets of information that help make them feel like they are a part of a team, that there is gratitude for them as well in them joining the team. These are new hires, that instills confidence in what they see through their leaders as well. That, in fact, you get off of that feeling, that high that it can get you of, I recorded it and there was such thankfulness from the group. And I said, that was such a simple piece that I could take on. And yet, why would I not want to share what I've learned and experienced that one nugget may in fact be something that blossoms. Exactly. That blossoms into something that one individual takes and becomes an even better leader for tomorrow.
And as you're talking about that, I'm realizing how clear it is for me. And you know this about me. I work with the military. I work with the United States military, those who've raised their hand to protect and defend our nation. And I don't get paid for it. I take time out of my own day to do it. And honestly, what I look back on is when times have been tough in the business, and I'm going on 18 years of being an entrepreneur, there are definitely highs and there's definitely lows. When those lows hit, the first thing I turn to is I want to mentor more. I want to do I've got time now. Everything kind of slowed down. So let's pump up the mentoring, because I know stuff that these men and women don't know. They know way more complicated and important things, but I have offers and gifts that I can give them that's going to make their transition into civilian life a little easier. And that is my default. I go right there when I'm struggling, because to your point, not only am I giving something and they're getting the benefit of that out, but I feel really good and it lifts me up. And I have to believe that putting that out there, that energy, actually then brings more opportunity, or the dips become smaller. As opposed to kind of what we started with, which is that turning inward, getting very self-protected, holding on. Like, you have so much knowledge. All those new hires, they had 19 questions. I'm impressed that you got through 10 in 20 minutes. And being able to say, my gift to you is not limited by a time constraint. And I want to book another session because I want to do more. That is really modeling that behavior for them too.
And I do think so. I mean, it's such a great example. And mine probably is just more leaning into mentorship as an example, right? Mentorship can play such an interesting role for not only the mentor, but the mentee as well. I think my greatest opportunities have been when I thought I was coming into this as a mentor and I took away something in return from it, right? So you sit there and you think, that can come in more formalized mentorship programs. This can come in people reaching out within industry. So there's so many opportunities in which it can happen, but some of the greatest times that I've had in a mentorship role has been where I have been taught through that journey, listening to the individual that is on the other side and hearing where they are taking in information that I'm giving them, and I'm actually learning from them as well. And that aspect of being, so grateful for those interactions. Those are the types of interactions that you have to commit to. You have to find time in your day for, because the power is exponential as to what they can shape for how you are showing up as a leader for tomorrow.
I love that. So I've got a last question for you, because I know you and I could talk for hours. Early in your career, did you receive a leadership lesson or an insight or an empowerment that was something that you've carried through to today?
That's a great question. I will reflect back. This was a few years ago, Lida. But when I was in the telecommunication industry before I was in healthcare, and very junior. And there was an individual, a leader who hired me on, and I did not have the expertise at that point in time to be taking on the role. It was a national role. It was something that my resume was not speaking to the fact that I should be taking on this role. And what he said to me within the interview process and beyond was, it was something where I was drawn by the fact that you had a more robust outward in consideration. So I taught dancing for many years. And so I taught dancing and I volunteered through that. And so he said, I found that interesting. So, I wanted to hear more about how that shapes you as now in your professional career, what that looks like. And I thought, that is so unique. I wouldn't have thought that would have been anything that was got pulled through. And yet, and it was a successful on-taking. I learned so much from this individual. This was someone who mentored me later on in life. And it was something quirky that he said through that journey where he was like, I just thought I would love to understand how you stand on a stage with 400 people and are, choreographing pieces. And then he relayed that into the sales and marketing and the commercial side of how you show up. And so how I've taken that on through my career is really how you look at individuals as a whole. Not only what they are coming to the table with from an experience standpoint, but what they are coming to the table with respect to what they may be giving in the future, their potential, and what that potential shows. And it might be the slightest thing that shows up, whether it is, asking them a question about, what is their brand? How do you like to show up? How do you feel cared for by other individuals? So just really unique and kind of considerate questions that showcase that it's not just what you're bringing to the table, but what your potential is. That is something that I took away with me to be able to then pull that through to say, no, I think you can. And that goes back into the whole jumping off point of empowerment as well, because empowering others to say, I think you have the ability to be able to do this. I haven't seen it yet, but let's give it a try. And then I get to learn through that journey as well. So
I love that. What you're actually saying without using the words is you're telling people that you see them, right? That person who saw that in you, you're like, it's just something I did, but I see you. And I'm deeply passionate. My work is about empowering our voices and the new rules of influence and all that. And that story was such a great example of somebody saying, I see you, not as a task producer, not as an employee, but as a human being. Yeah. Tell me more. And wow, if we could carve out a few minutes every day to do that to people around us who are working so fast and so hard behind computer screens, leaning on AI, wow, just to stop them and go, I really see you and I
Yeah.
hear you. So tell me more.
Yeah.
That is such a gift you've given us. I love that. What a amazing way to end this podcast. It's going to be one that I know I'm going to reflect on and probably listen to a few times. Jessica, thank you so much for joining today. Always a pleasure to see you, although I'm freezing looking at your background.
Well, it's a pleasure speaking with you as well, Lida. And I think that there's so much more that can be pulled through. So, I look forward to the after discussions as well. And thank you for the time with everyone.
Yes, Jessica is very active on LinkedIn and she's active in her community. If you're in the pharma industry, definitely connect with her. She is a woman leader in pharma and she works with a lot of other women and leaders in pharma. So this has been just a fabulous conversation. And to all of you who are listening or watching this on YouTube, if you like today's conversation, please click the little like button and share with a friend, subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And until I see you next time, Happy New Year, Happy 2026. And I wish you health, happiness, and all good things.
Thanks for tuning in to the Lida Citroën podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow the show and leave a review. It helps more people discover these inspiring conversations. For more tools, insights, and resources, visit Lida360.com or connect with Lida on LinkedIn. Until next time, remember, your influence has the power to make a real difference.